Welcome, YouTube friends and family, to today's pre-Christmas edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So I was actually going to do this video on Thursday and do it as a Throwback Thursday because we are going to do something super easy and fun and great for entertaining through the holidays. And that is, we are going to make some very simple, no-knead bread. You don't need a mixer. You don't need any fancy equipment. It's only 4 ingredients. And then to dip our bread in, we are going to go old school with my 1974 fondue pot. I hope you'll stay tuned. All right, so in a large bowl, what I have done is I have placed a cup and a half of warm water. So whenever you're using yeast, you do not want your water to be above 110. So depending on the temperature your water comes out, depending on the temperature in your house or of the vessel you're using, I find that 40 seconds in the microwave in a glass Pyrex cup, it comes out about 106. And I have to tell y'all, it's pretty chilly in my house this morning. I am not accustomed to wearing sweaters, and I put this sweater on because the low today, as the temperature drops through this storm, is going to be -6. So I thought I should, floof it up. Well, goodness gracious, I've been burning up all morning, so it's a little chilly in the house. But you don't want it above 115 because it will kill your yeast. Now, this bread we are going to be baking in a Dutch oven here. And I have an enamel-coated Dutch oven. It is a Lodge pan. I will do my best, as I always do. Y'all, I hate saying it every time, but I do get a lot of questions. And, maybe folks are new to YouTube, and I never want to sound short or unkind to anyone. So in the description box, I am an Amazon affiliate, are the links to different things that I'm using. So if you purchase something by clicking on one of my links, if you purchase one of the items, then I get a small compensation. So that's just full disclosure. All right, so you're going to end up with something that looks kind of like this. And then to that, and I know this is counterintuitive, but this is what the directions say. We are going to add half a tablespoon of like a non-iodized salt, so like a sea salt. I'm going to use pink Himalayan, and I am using my Morgan Hahn measuring spoons, and they have some interesting measurements. So they do have a half tablespoon. I don't know if that will focus or not. So we're going to add that. So that was ingredient number 3. So we have water, yeast, and salt. Now, all at once, without stirring, by following the directions, and give me a minute, y'all, and I'll tell you where this recipe came from. Bowlofdelicious.com, excuse me, I will link the recipe. We're going to add 3 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. You don't even need bread flour for this. You can use bread flour. I'm going to try it with all-purpose, and we'll see how it comes out. So that's 1 cup, and only a half cup measure will fit in my canister. 1.5 cups, 2 cups, 2.5, and 3. And I already added the 1/4. Now, what I do want to say is, if you're not an experienced bread maker, no worries. Depending on the humidity in your house, bread can require more or less flour, more or less water. It kind of just depends. So you will learn as you continue your bread making journey, what is appropriate consistency for your bread. I'll get it out, y'all. Okay, so what it says, don't worry about mixing it too much. Just make sure everything is uniformly wet. It will be messy and sticky. So I don't have everything uniformly wet yet, but we're getting close. The humidity in my house today is 47%. And I have to say, I think this is going to be just, whoops, perfect. Y'all excuse my grunting and groaning. Oh, my word, my back. Okay, enough complaining, Kimberly. Alrighty, so there's what your dough will look like. Now, we're going to cover our bowl with a clean kitchen towel. This is just a very thin, almost linen-like, that's hard to say, towel. And then you want to leave it for 2 to 3 hours to rise in a warm place until it's doubled in volume. Now, if it's cold in your home, which it's winter, so many homes are a little bit chillier than they would be in the summer, what you can do is turn your oven on for a few minutes, then turn it off and put your bread in to rise in there. I happen to have a bread proof setting on my oven, so that's what I've set mine to. And I'm going to go ahead and pop this in, and we will let it rise, and I'll bring you back after a couple hours. So stay tuned. All right, our 2 hours have elapsed on our bread rise, and I thought I would read to you the directions because I've been doing some things behind the scenes. So 30 minutes to an hour before you're ready to bake, preheat your oven to 450. Place your Dutch oven in the oven with the lid on while the oven, is preheating. Once the oven reaches 450, keep it preheating for another 20 minutes so the Dutch oven gets good and hot. So we are to that point. It says scrape the dough onto the edge of a piece of parchment paper dusted with flour. Make as much of a loaf shape as you can by folding the edges up on top of it using a silicone spatula. Then use the edges of the parchment paper to flip the loaf over so the floured side is the top and the loaf is in the center of the parchment paper. Don't worry about making it look beautiful or smooth on top. You can make it in an oval or a circle. Then you can use a sharp knife to make some slits. So let me show y'all. Our dough is quite happy, y'all. So I am going to scrape it out here. And you want to handle this dough pretty much as little as possible. The more you handle your dough, the more it will deflate. So I have flipped it over so the flour edge is on top. Mine is shaped like a crescent roll. Let's try to round that out a little bit. That might not be as easy as I think. I'm overhandling y'all probably, but that's okay. All right. Let's kind of use the parchment paper to our advantage, right? So once we kind of have a roundish loaf, I don't want it to split, so I am going to encourage it a little bit. All right, we can use a little flour on top. I'm happy with that shape. You want to take either a sharp knife or a bread cutting razor, which is what I'm using. I'm just going to cut through like yay. So that the bread will rise more. That is the purpose of cutting it, not just to make it look pretty. All right. Takes a little work, but you can cut through it. And there we have our beautiful dough. And I have to tell you, it smells really, really good. All right, next steps. Take out the preheated Dutch oven. Take off the lid using a oven mitt. Grab the parchment from the sides. Place the loaf in your Dutch oven. Put the cover back on. Bake 35 minutes at 45 degrees. Remove the lid and bake another 5 to 10 or until golden brown color forms, longer if necessary. So I am going to do those steps, and I will bring you back when our loaf is all baked, and we'll get started making our delicious fondue. So while our bread has started to bake, I wanted to share with you some gift basket ideas. My original plan was to do a separate video, but y'all, with everything going on in preparations for Christmas, I don't want to let you down, so I thought I better do it with this video. So I want to just give you some last minute ideas for gifting. So this basket is actually for my son. So let me just share with you some ideas of things you might put in. So let me grab this one. Bear Creek makes these dehydrated, if you will, family size soups. And this is creamy wild rice, and they have chicken noodle flavored. Cooks in 10 minutes, just add water. So these are great if your gift recipient likes to camp, likes to hunt, needs something simple. So I've included a couple of those that will feed him and some of his hunting friends. Also, I have been ordering some items from Azure while I realize that's the 11th hour, just to share with you. I have some vanilla beans, some fourfold vanilla extract, the organic vanilla powder, and I confess this is a 1 pound bag that I don't know if he'll get through that, but that's okay. I did make him, I think I've got this lid upside down. I bought these little jars off, no, that's, is it? I bought these little jars off Amazon. Not super impressed. They're 2 ounces. I used vegetable glycerin to make my vanilla extract. So if you don't want to use alcohol, that's an option. Some really interesting organic tea bags, cardamom cinnamon, stress less winter mint, hot apple cider, and organic mint fields. And along with that, for his tea, some honey oranges that we home canned on one of the videos, some delicious spiced honey with the lemon slices studded with cloves, some pecan praline syrup for pancakes. My son loves pancakes. I do not like pancakes. I like waffles. Some hot honey, which I know he's going to be in love with. His request, hey, Mom, you got any more of your homemade chili sauce? Some chili sauce. Some of these store purchased cream wafer rolls. The hot chocolate in a jar that I shared with you in an earlier video. If you remember when I was making the infused olive oil, I did both rosemary and basil. Those finished up. I filtered them, so he has those as well. And yeah, that is upside down. I'll fix that. Some cranberry mustard and some hot fudge sauce. So that's kind of Mom's homemade gifts for my son. So let me fix this because it's going to drive me crazy until I do. Okay, it goes this away. All right. Let me say a word about the cranberry mustard, y'all. I had some today on a sandwich. Oh my word, it is so good. I am doing a ham for Christmas. I am going to be making a glaze with the cranberry mustard and some brown sugar for my ham rather than to use the packaged items. Along with this basket are all the goodies that would not fit. So I just purchased this cute little tin that says Seasons Greetings. It's in the buffalo plaid. And I just put an assortment of peppermint bark, chocolate covered and white covered pretzels, the Christmas toffee, and 2 packages of the chocolate covered Oreos because that's his favorite, some haystacks, as well as some of the turtle pretzels and the Cookie Crunch chocolate kiss with an M&M pretzels. So this should keep his belly full for about a minute. My son's a good little eater. And I also have some refrigerated items that I will have for him. I have some salt cured egg yolks, some fresh eggs from the girls, some salmon from Butcher Box, a jar of liquid gold, which is bacon grease, in the ketchup. So, those are just some ideas for you. I did find you can go out. I went to Pinterest and I just typed in free printable gift tags, got a lot there. And then I put in free printable mason jar decorations. And I found, let me show you this right quick, some cute things like the reindeer antlers, the elf hat that you cut out and then put around the jar. Just some examples of the tags. And I just printed these on cardstock. I used these, which says, "We hope your holidays are sweet," for my neighbors and friends gifts. So, and it didn't cost me anything but pennies for the paper and the ink. So I'm really pleased with how this came out. I think my son will be tickled. I also found, he won't be watching this video. He's so busy right now at work. He doesn't have time to say grace over it. You know what I mean? So I found this jar of olives, and it was $9.99, but it is a huge jar of olives. My son loves olives, and it's all different kinds of olives in a big jar. So, and the jar is beautiful. I'm going to be like, "Hey, you can bring that jar back to me." But I think he will really enjoy that. So just a few gift ideas for you. We're about ready to get started on our fondue. And let's see, we've got 25 minutes on the first cook left. So we're 10 minutes in. I'm going to clean this up and we'll get started making our delicious fondue dip for our crusty bread. So while our bread is baking, let me finally share with you my beautiful mint condition 1974 Oster electric fondue pot. I purchased this at a thrift store. So I paid $6.99 for it. I looked this morning on Etsy. They have one identical to it for sale for $120. And theirs didn't come with the fondue forks. And this is from Robeson's, Church and Randolph's, Champaign, Illinois. And it's made by the Oster Corporation, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So the box, look at those 1970s graphics, y'all. I think I had an outfit like that. I have washed and sanitized this very well. I don't think it's ever been used. It has the little forks so you can spear your veg, or depending on the type of fondue, it might be fruit or chunks of bread. We'll be using bread today because we're making a savory fondue. So for purposes of measuring ingredients, I will take this off and set this aside, and we'll measure into the pot, which comes off of the burner base. So where am I going to get a fondue recipe? Because it's not super current. Well, fondue is still popular today. If y'all have ever been to any of the fondue restaurants where they have like a cooking center in the middle, and then you can order different types of meat that you cook in the oil, that is another type of fondue. Y'all, if you can hear the chickens, Miss Fancy Ray's trying to lay an egg, and she's singing the egg song, and they're in the garage because of the winter storm. So in the 17th century was when fondue first became popular. So really cooking meat in hot oil. I always think of cheese fondue when I think of fondue, not so much chocolate fondue. So cheese fondue is Swiss. It used to be comprised of melted wine and cheese, and the pots that were open flame versus my electric are more 1960s. So you would have a can of sterno underneath. The disadvantage with those was it was harder to regulate the temperature, i.e. not burn your cheese or overboil and scorch your oil. So the classic cheese fondue recipe really became popular in America in the 1950s. I knew that was why I like cheese fondue. Anything cheese to me is fabulous. So that's what I know about fondue. But of course, Better Homes and Gardens has fondue cookbook and tabletop cooking. Now they're showing here some beef chunk, it looks like, and they're cooking it in the boiling oil. But this has menus and tasty recipes for every course, party ideas, and chafing dish favorites. So today I thought we would make a cheese sour cream fondue. So while my bread is baking, I have over on the stove 6 slices of bacon that I'm frying up. I will drain that off, and in a little bit of the drippings, I am going to cook the onions, and that's about a 1/4 cup. I used maybe half of a small onion, about that, and I used a Vidalia onion. And I'm going to cook those until they're tender. Then we are going to stir in 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour, so just a little bit. That will help it thicken. And then we're going to add a pound of cheese, 2 cups of sour cream, and a teaspoon of Worcestershire. So I know I kind of rattled that off really quick. So I'm going to reposition here and bring you back, and we'll get started cooking up, and then place in the pot our cheese fondue and have ourselves a little fondue party in celebration of Winter Storm Elliott. Stay tuned. Okay, we have our 6 strips of bacon cooked. Draining on a paper towel. I minced my onion fairly fine. The color you see in the pan is actually from the bacon. The onions themselves are not brown. I would suggest you mince them pretty finely, because I don't think you want to get a huge chunk of onion in your cheese fondue dip. So the next thing we're going to do, we want these tender. They're not quite tender, but we're going to be stirring in our 2 teaspoons of all-purpose flour. So we're basically making a roux, while our cheese will be nice and thick even when melted. Because this is a sour cream base dip, well, a sour cream and cheese based dip. Oh my word, is it going to be one of those days? I think that, yeah, we may need to thicken it a little bit, because that sour cream is going to go pretty runny when we add that. I will also tell you, having made fondue a lot, I was born in 61, so I was cooking in the 70s, and I certainly made my share of cheese fondue. You can refrigerate it and reheat it. It still tastes delicious. Okay, those onions are getting fairly tender. And if you see back here on Cindy, I am using my entire oven for this baking process. And we have 7 minutes, 15 seconds left on our first 35-minute cook. Then we'll be taking the lid off and watching it really carefully for an additional 5 to 10 or longer if it takes. I'm laughing. You all probably can't hear it. Yeah, I did not think I would get any eggs. Marigold laid this morning before I ever moved the girls. And then if you saw my live, I am just using one of my recycle bins turned on its side. They know what to do. Boy, they're in there singing the egg song, laying eggs. So I'm going to get some eggs. Maybe I'll get more eggs because I can control the light and the heat a little better. All right, I'm going to call that tender. So let's add our 2 teaspoons of flour. And again, this is just an all-purpose. I'm going to sprinkle it over. Oh my word. I'll have to take you out before I close the video and let you all see the girls. They are so happy, in case you missed the live. I was really concerned about bringing them in. I am thankful, because this is not the first nor the last below zero weather we will have here in Ohio where I live. And, you know, just really deep snow and really inclement weather, freezing, really below freezing temperatures, I will be bringing them in, and I love the little pin I got for them. Okay, to this, and we want to cook it on low heat, we are going to add about 4 cups of shredded cheese. I am using some organic sharp cheddar, and I actually weighed this so I would know how much. So I need about 2/3 of this bag, but I can hand measure it, 3 and 4. So this makes quite a bit. You try not to put as much on the stove as I just did, and you want to get it up before it melts. Good Lord. Okay. Well, that's all good. Okay, to that we are going to add 2 cups of sour cream. So I have a 16-ouncer of Daisy sour cream. I want to give this a good stir before I do that, just because it's starting to melt and I don't want it to stick. Boy, they are having a big party out there. There may be some laying box wars going on. That can happen sometimes, especially because really only one hen fits in the box. The way I have it turned, I may have to turn it the other way. This is all an experiment, guys. New chicken mama here. But I'm pleased with the progress so far. And when they get too noisy, I turn the light off in the garage. And since I have no windows, they go to bed. They don't know any different. They're like, oh, it's night-night. All right. Let's get this sour cream mixed in. Oh, y'all, I won't say that this is low-cal, but I will say it's good cow. Lots of good dairy going on there. Very pleased with the size and the softness of the onion. And the last ingredient that's called for is a teaspoon of Worcestershire. Y'all, you could put garlic powder. I am obviously going to put more than a teaspoon of Worcestershire from my experience. It just tastes better that way. This will kind of thin it out a little bit. And I'll give it a taste test here in just a moment, but I may add some garlic powder. It definitely won't need salt. Then I'm going to go solve the battle that's going on in the garage. Bok bok. Let me grab a tasting spoon here. Y'all, I think it needs a little bit of garlic and a little bit more Worcestershire, but you can certainly spice it up to taste. So let me add those items. I got to go sort out the chickens. I'll be right back. All right, y'all. That was Jolene. And no egg was produced. So a clean tasting spoon. I always have 17 spoons to wash at the end of this. Much better. So in my opinion, that the meaty taste and the little bit of acid that you get from the Worcestershire combined with some garlic powder really kicked it up a notch. I'm going to let it hang out here till a little bit more of the cheese melts. It's time to check our bread, so while I have you all, let's see if we can do that without burning myself. Oh, y'all, that is gorgeous bread. Gorgeous. So I don't think it's going to need, I hope y'all can see that, much more time. It needs a little bit. It's not quite done through. Let's set the timer again. Oh, come on. We'll keep an eye on that. I'm going to heat this a little bit, get it over in our fondue pot to continue to warm. And y'all, you could certainly do this in your fondue pot. Because of the age of mine, and it's not a modern, so to speak, fondue pot, I don't want to risk causing a problem on the fondue pot. So I'm going to let the stove do a lot of the work. All right, I'll see you in a moment. All right, y'all, the video is not finished until the taste test. So let me bring you over a little closer. Share my fine paper china with you. This one's holiday themed. And let's take a taste of this bread. I'm really interested. This is a new bread recipe to me. Oh, okay. It said you could cut it after 10 minutes. So here's what the crumb looks like. So it did say there would not be as many holes, so to speak, in the bread. Just by the nature of it being a no knead, as well as, you know, a non-rise, a non-to rise. I'm sorry, I'll get these words out. And my girlfriend's heading over. She's going to have a little fondue with me, so we'll spear us a piece. I didn't share. I added the bacon on top at the end. So let's, well, I'm doing a terrible job here. I will tell you, I think taking off these things, and believe me, this ring gets hot. That way I can see what I'm doing here. There we go. So we get a little cheese, a little bacon. Oh, Lordy, that's hot. Mm, 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 mm. Did I mention? Y'all, you gotta try this. Even if you just make the fondue sauce on your stove and you don't have a fondue pot, you could probably put it in like a little crock pot or something on warm. Oh my word. Unbelievably amazing. Now, you're really not supposed to eat off your fondue fork like I did and then re-dip, but I'll watch that before she gets here. The extra Worcestershire gives it that kind of meaty depth of flavor. So good, and a little back note of garlic. Guys, you got to try it. And the bread is surprisingly good. That was my biggest concern, that it would be flat and not have taste. But it's quite yeasty and good. Y'all, this will be my last video before Christmas. I'm going to try, emphasis on the word try, to see if my son would be willing. Yeah, I burnt my hand, guys, and set off the smoke detector, but nothing's smoking, so I'm not sure why. I'm going to see if my son would be willing to say hello on a Christmas video. I'm not going to harsh his holiday. If he doesn't want to, he's very shy. He does not like anything related to YouTube. I will tell you that in advance. So probably on my own there. But I may pop on with a quick live to say hello and wish you all Merry Christmas on the day. So if you haven't already, could you please do me a big favor? Would you go ahead and smash that like button, hit that share button down below, send it off to your friends, family, anybody who you know likes cheese, will love this recipe, or who would like to learn how to make a very, very simple homemade bread with 4 ingredients. How simple was that? I will see you all after Christmas. I hope you all have a very safe and blessed Merry Christmas. Don't forget the reason for the season, and I will see you all next week. So until I see you again, be healthy, be well, be blessed, take care.